I'm with Margate captain Harry Hudson ahead of the 25-26 season. Harry, good training session here at Margate tonight. How's it going so far?
Yeah, very good. Obviously it's our second session back, first one at Hudson Park this year. There really is a good buzz about this season. I think, everyone's getting on. Even tonight, it surprised me really with like the new boys coming in at the level they're at as well. I've never seen some of these players before, but the additions that Ben's made clearly has and will make an effect in the season. At the end of the session now, I know it's only the second one, but the boys still want to play on. People want to keep training, which is only a positive, because normally in pre-season everyone's like, I don't really want to carry on. But listen, older boys, especially in this team, they definitely keep themselves in good shape. So yeah, very good session all round.
And obviously your fourth season now with the club. This pre-season compared to previous ones, is it much harder, or are they just as enjoyable as the first?
I would say, the last two seasons, I think if it goes like last season, I think it'll be very enjoyable. They're not the sort of management staff that just get you doing doggies, a little bit of old school. We do have hard runs, but most of our work's with the ball. Like tonight we've done like a crossing and finishing where we had to run to a station, cross it, run back. Things game related that I personally feel will be a lot better for you when you're going into the season and when you're going into games, because for me, if you're just doing doggies up and down the pitch, sometimes that's good, but it's not realistic. You're never really going to do that in a game unless, well, no, it's not unless. You're never going to do it in a game.
And in terms of it is early pre-season, we know that only 2 sessions in obviously, but what's the mood like in the dressing room? I imagine keeping 14 players from last season has helped. A couple of new additions in there already as well.
Yeah.
Just what's the mood in the dressing room these early moments?
It's good, I can honestly say I don't feel, today I come back to Hudson Park, and I honestly feel like the boys, we're not just like a team. I feel like we're a bit more than a team now. We all know each other in and out, which is good. This time last season, Ben had to rebuild a brand new squad. So there's players coming in. I didn't have a clue what they're like. But now it's nice to come in and actually know your team. Everyone getting on. It's a good buzz. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's laughing and joking. Even like the 2 new boys that have come in tonight. They've integrated into the team very well, and so far so good.
And looking back, just very briefly on last season, obviously the club had a great season up until that last moment, obviously in the playoff defeat at Burgess Hill. How much will that spur you and the players on that are here from last year to go one better?
Yeah, like I said, I think for me personally, it's going to be hard to hear, but it was probably the right thing in terms of maybe not pushing up too early. I feel like, obviously this season, I'm not going to go and say, we're going to go and win the league. But, last season, I felt like if we went up, it would have definitely been a challenging year, Like Ben maybe would have had to bring in some more new players. And you know what it's like trying to get players, especially down to Margate, it's tough. So, obviously, it's gutting, and the boys are absolutely devastated, but it definitely has pushed us on, and the boys, all they want to do now, all we're talking about is just the league. You want to focus. We just want to go up.
I'm just going to ask that next question actually, in terms of goals for the season. I don't expect you to sit here and say we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
But promotion, I imagine, is forefront and centre for the team. But what else is the hope? A bit of a cup run as well. Have you gone into detail yet about that sort of thing?
Yeah. Obviously, Elliot, his PowerPoints are probably. I'd go far to saying they're certainly between here and the National League. They probably are one of the best, if not the best PowerPoints I've personally ever had in non-league. You don't get the professionalism that he gives before a game, even like small details. Like I remember last year against, who was it? I can't remember. It was Deal away. It's like a penalty, and before the game, he knows where the last penalty taker took his penalty. So he's telling Tom managed to save it. We win 1-0, gives us 3 points. But in terms of goals, listen, we'd love a cup run. I think we're due one. We come very close last year. With Horsham, I do feel like we deserved a lot more from the game. There's some refereeing decisions that I personally thought weren't the greatest. But like I say, I'm not going to say we're going to go up. Because listen, if we do, brilliant. But obviously you don't could play in a league to not want to try and go up. You don't play in the league to stay in the league or to get relegated, if that makes sense. You just, of course you want to go up, but like I say, we're not going to put that pressure on ourselves, and we're just going to hopefully go into the season strong.
And you're back as captain for the new season. Just explain to us what that means to you first and foremost, and how your role has sort of developed over the last year when you obviously become captain to now. You've got some new additions to welcome to the team as well. So what will your role be in that, and just like I say, what's your emotions on being the captain again for the new season?
Yeah, of course, it's brilliant. You know, I think I'm not just like bigging myself up, but personally I think ever since I was a young age I've always been like a leader on the pitch. And straight away, Ben, I think I was the first one, Ben called, he just like, Harry, I'm here for next season. He doesn't even have to ask, you know. I know as long as Ben's here, and the club is a great club to be at, so for me to be captain again is a real honour. But obviously it's good because last season was the first time I've ever been a club captain, so it was a good learning curve, you know, and I think what helped was we had a good season, so it made it easier for myself, you know. I haven't had to come for players and, you know, have a moan. You do have some games, you know, like at the start of the season when we're not scoring, you might have a little pop, but like I say, I'm still learning, so with me being around the more experienced players like Sam Blackman and Lewis Knight and even the manager Ben, it really is good for me, and hopefully can spur me on for the rest of my career.
And just finally, Harry, obviously it is a new season. The fans have played such a crucial role in last year in having such a good season. But just ahead of the new one, what would your message be to them ahead of the upcoming year? But not just here, but away games as well. Yeah,
like I'd say obviously be patient. You know, there's going to be ups and downs in the season. You know, we're not going to win every game. Obviously, I'd like to think we're not going to lose a lot, but we're not going to win every game. But I'm sure the boys will definitely give them another season to be proud of, and I'm sure we will do everything in our power to try and go up and hopefully bring the club together again.
Just finish on one word, just how excited are you for the new one?
Buzzing.